Hey man, it's nice to finally actually get to see you.
It is, man. It's great to see you.
you know, so everyone, this is Jamie Daves, right?
Yes, sir.
You know your name is kind of a tongue twister for me, bro. I don't know if you ever gotten that growing up because I
I,
want I want to say your name every time I read it. I want to say Davy James, but it's
Well,
not.
I'm named after my dad, so everyone calls me Jimmy James Jr. Uh, uh, that's my nickname in our hometown. He's Jim. I'm Jamie. We're both James. So, uh, but yeah, never been Mr. Daves. I've been Mr. Davies, Mr. Davis, never Mr. Daves. And
Never
you're the
Mr.
first person to actually say that right without me telling them in my
That's
entire life.
what. Maybe it's because my name is David, and I know all the the Dave, Davy, Dave, all that. So
Yeah.
David, and so my son's name is David, and my grandson's also David, and we call him Davy. So
Hell yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, but I with the last name, I always explained it like Cheech and Chong. I'm like, man, it's Dave. So man, it's Dave plural, man, Dave's. Like just always went back to Up and Smoke to try to explain it to people.
that's funny. So man, who the hell are you, and why am I interviewing you? First and
Man, I'm trying to figure that out right now. It's still blowing my mind. Uh, I'm sorry if I don't look kind of starstruck. I am kind of talking to the goat. Uh, it's a big deal for me. But my name's Jamie. Man, I've actually, fortunately and unfortunately, I was born into law enforcement. I've had to deal with it since the day I was born. Uh, my father and my mother are career LEOs. My older brother, my sister is a dispatcher. My older brother is the deputy.
wow.
I have 17 uncles and aunts in law enforcement in this state. And for the most part, a lot of them do the job. Most of them still don't understand the Bill of Rights whatsoever.
You have a video that you posted on your Instagram. And it's the video of your father's last day. Um,
Yeah,
your sister was the one working dispatch that day.
yeah, she's a dispatcher for Oklahoma Highway Patrol. I don't know if she is. I think she's at a different job now. But at that time, she was a dispatcher for OHP, and the sheriff, Damon Devereaux of Logan County, where my father was a sergeant. He allowed my sister. She at one time was a dispatcher at Logan County. She's loudmouth like me, so that's why she bounces around. But she they let her do that call out, and that maybe one of three times in my life I've seen a tear come to that man's eye. Was really surprised he did it on the news. I didn't see him do it at his dad's funeral, but he did it
Wow,
on the news. Uh,
wow.
I was shocked. That actually brought tears to my eyes watching that. I've watched that video a lot of times since it was put on YouTube.
So you have been your whole family's in law enforcement. So you've been around the whole back the blue. You grown up listening to that whole propaganda?
I mean, and most of my life, and even until one of the first times I was arrested as a teenager, my it was a complete it was a complete shit show. The cop was mostly doing it because we pissed him purely off. We it was kids running their mouth. We knew he didn't know what he was saying. He that was true, so we just ran our mouth as dumb kids. And my father backed the cop and let his
Wow.
son go to juvenile detention. But my father gave his mom a DUI. And when I was 6 or 7, rode with my dad to have his mom get a DUI after 2 beers of bingo. So I kind of knew how that should have went. Uh,
Wow.
I wasn't shocked if that tells you if that I expected to go to jail that night. His first oath, and he's made it clear to his kids, was to the law. He wish he would have went to law library, picked up a law book, and he knows a lot of reasons to take you to jail, not a whole lot not to take you to jail.
Wow.
And he can tell me a thousand reasons to arrest me at any moment. But he can't tell me why he can't arrest me, and that terrifies the hell out of me. And I realized that at a young age, and yeah, the horror stories I've heard that was braggadocious. I don't know how much of it was cops just sitting around playing cards and bragging, but I listened talk about shootings like we talked about scoring touchdowns. I watched them talk about whooping a kid's ass like we just hit the home run to win the game. Like you talked about your kids graduating high school, they talked about violence, and that stuck out to me, and that's how I knew my path was going to be different than how most Dave's boys' path goes. I love my father. I spent 2.5 hours with my father yesterday. He gave me a shotgun that my grandpa, that was one of my grandpa's old shotguns yesterday. Set it in the closet when I got home today. I mean, love the dude. Great dad. Awesome friend. I mean, we deer hunt together. We do so much together. But when it comes to qualified immunity and it being abused, even he knows it's abused on a daily basis. And he's opened up a lot more about, what should have and could have been done since he retired.
You believe in our work. You and I have been talking on Instagram back and forth. And
Wholeheartedly.
boy, I gotta tell you, man, you make me laugh every day when I turn on my Instagram and I see your memes. My wife is busting up laughing next to me. My son comes in, hey dad, you see this? And we're just sitting there
I
laughing,
love
dude.
it.
You are freaking hilarious. I'm gonna drop your Instagram link in the description so people can know what the hell I'm talking about. But you believe in our work. Aside from
Wholehearted.
all the memes and everything, you reached out to me and you said, hey man, I really love your channel. I love your work. I love what you represent. And we started talking. I had no idea before I started talking to you that your parents were in law enforcement. And the more maybe it's the way you reached out to me, which made me kind of like pay attention and say, okay, I'll talk to this guy because obviously he supports us and knows what he's talking about, right? And
I try to be genuine as myself. My goal is never to be like every cop's there. My goal is to say to qualified immunity, all it does is help guilty people. If they wouldn't need qualified immunity to cover them if they weren't found guilty of the crime that they're accused of. Or they wouldn't need to be covered by qualified. If they were innocent, they would just be innocent. But when they have to use qualified immunity, you have to be wrong. So I have a big problem with it. I have a problem with. I've seen the amount of violence that I've seen in my lifetime, and unfortunately, it's gotten worse. It's not gotten better. It's there's clean shootings that happen every day. There's cops that have to get in fist fights. There's cops that have to fight for their lives every day. It's crazy, but as Americans, we're fighting for our lives, and we don't know who to go to for help right now because we're afraid it might cost us our life to call 911 and be a little erratic or be hysterical. Like, if I'm an emotional person as it is, I speak with my hands. It's part of how my humor comes out. That could get my ass whooped by a cop having a bad day, and
oh
that
shit,
it should never be America, ever.
man, bro, that makes a hell of a lot of sense. And in reality, man, you have, I would say, a lot of insight because you've seen what it's like to be on the side of law enforcement, even though you yourself are not in law enforcement. You never were in law enforcement, right?
Never, never.
Okay. So, but you,
I've spent about 20 nights in county jail between my early 20s and late teens, but I didn't get. I was behind the doors, not on the other side of them, and generally was getting. I've had the cops put me in general population in the county. My dad was a lieutenant of
no
his sheriff's
shit.
office. Throw me in like 2 hours. Come in a panic, like he's alive. Oh my god, he's got the same name as the cop that's thrown 60% of the people in this jail in here. Like
Wow, man.
the idiocracy that goes into our government is sad, and there doesn't need to. And you know it from having conversations with cops every day, like, and to not feel patronized by the lack of knowledge of the job that's the first word of their title, law enforcement. They're just enforcement. What's the law part? Because I watch hours of videos every day. I spend a good portion of my time if I'm not out in person watching police on the internet. And where's the law? I want to know about the law because I'm tired of citizens teaching them it.
Right. No shit. We're not taught law in school. We're not taught law at home because our parents weren't taught law in school. You know, it seems odd because you have to pretty much carry a law book. You have to, when you get in trouble, you got to hire an attorney. When a
Yep.
cop violates your rights, he has his attorney already paid for.
Yep.
How is
And
that a
even if
sustainable
he
system?
messes up, the union's only there to protect him. It don't care if he's wrong. It don't care if he's right. I mean, he could shoot 12 kids in the face, or he could run in and save him from a burning building. The union's going to support him with the same back, the same power, spend the same money, use the same attorneys. They don't care about right or wrong, and we don't have that. We have an attorney that if he doesn't see a chance of him getting a W, he's going to settle for the least loss he can take. And
Right.
it's became a numbers game. And there's the fact that it's, well, man, I can't get a win, so what's the least loss I can take in this case? Well, take this plea because I don't want to go to trial. And when every attorney should want to go to trial, every attorney should want that moment to I'm going to convince this jury that this person is innocent. But man, I mean, that's just, I don't know how much courtrooms you've been in, but I've never seen that. It's been 15 years since I've been in trouble, but I ain't seen that in any courtroom I've sat in.
Right. If a district attorney um, goes through with trying to convict somebody and somebody gets convicted, if the district attorney knows, for instance, like there's body cam footage, and maybe somebody doesn't even have to bring it up, maybe something that the district attorney sees or knows that the person's rights were violated. If the district attorney prosecutes knowing that, um, should absolute immunity be taken away from the district attorney?
Absolutely. I mean, it should. And that's the only reason they don't do their duty in that is because when you have an excuse of ignorance immediately, and that's what that immunity is. Like let your kid not go to school for a week and ask where your immunity is. No, they'll lock you up for your kid skipping school.
Right.
Like, hell, in the 90s when I was in school, I could not go for a month before they called my parents.
Yeah.
They didn't send the police to my house.
Hey, I used to
Like,
write my own notes. Please excuse David
seriously,
for.
like, how many notes I handed in sign the sheriff because I was too dumb to sign my dad's name. I just wrote the sheriff.
The sheriff.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Like it is. It always blew. Like one of my first instances when I knew, like as a young kid, my dad got shot when I was 6.5 years old, and the doctor told us to all go in to say goodbye to dad, and 3.5 months later, he was in another shooting. I mean,
Oh shit.
but so like experiencing that, and then realizing like that's not the only hard part of that, because then that next summer or spring, I played football. I'm from a town of 12,000 people called Guthrie, Oklahoma. In the 80s and 90s when I was growing up, it was even less. It's about 12 to 15,000 now. Uh, and I'd go play football. We all have sleepovers after the end of summer and go. And keep noticing my buddy's mom's crying, and I'm like, and I'm always been a pretty intuitive guy. That's what makes me funny. I read body language. My dad's a cop. My mom. I've been taught to read situations. I don't know how they're thinking, so I got to read them. Figure out how I'm going to get away with some shit tonight. And I asked her, what's wrong? She told me she was scared to tell me. And I asked her why. She said she's afraid my dad would kill her. She told me what was wrong with her. And I was blown back by that. And I said, what do you mean by that? And she goes, I don't mean your dad's evil. I mean, your dad killed my brother. That shooting that my dad had been in was her brother. And now that officer's son's spending the night at her house playing football with her son and her nephews. And, we're wrestling in the yard and playing catch and playing GI Joes and running around, and what this woman had to go through just to be a good mom for her son's friend. And like when she broke down to that, and I had a realization at a really young, that was probably in Pee Wee football, 6th, 7th grade, and it just learning that I was like, this life, my path is different, that I'm going to have to deal with things. And it helped me, if I knew I was going to catch shit for my dad being a cop in high school. My older brother did, my sisters did, everyone did. I just knew I had to punch a dude in the face. It wasn't a big deal. Just start socking fools. It'll be all right. And but I never thought about that aspect. I never thought that I would sleep on the couch of a woman who's my dad shot her brother.
Wow.
And unfortunately, like I had to do that in my hometown. My dad was involved in 4 shootings in Guthrie in the 80s.
That
And
had that had to not have just been like really odd and weird for her to be in that situation, but for you as well, right?
but I can empathize with it now as an adult. But as a child, like it was so hard not to get stuck on the why does this lady hate my dad, you know? And I wish I had a better understanding as a child. But even though we talked for probably, you know, it probably stand longer, but probably 10, 15 minutes, we had a discussion about why it was so hard for her. Like she's like, you're a sweet kid, you're a great friend to my son. She's like, I want to just like take pictures and love, but she's like, every time I look at you, she's like, I see, you know, every time I say your name, I'm saying the name of the man that shot my brother.
Wow, bro.
And you
Damn.
know, that wasn't the part that my parent, you know, I didn't get warned like, hey, shit could get weird over there. We just didn't talk about that. Your dad's a cop, move on, that's life. You know, like everyone has a job. Your dad's job is a cop. He's Captain America.
Damn. Do you mind? um, can I show the video of the Instagram that you showed of
You
your
can show
father?
whatever you like, bro.
All right, let's show that really quick.
If I tear up, sorry, it's my Papa Bear. I do love him so.
K109, go ahead.
County partner Darko after 7 years, 2 months, 2 weeks, and myself after 45 years, 1 month, 2 weeks, and 3 days, 10-7, final time.
Sergeant Date, badge number K109. We acknowledge this is your final 10-7 with the Logan County Sheriff's Office. We would like to thank you for your service, not only to our community, but to our country as well for a total of over 45 years. Thank you for your hard work, determination, and friendship. We want to congratulate you on your retirement and sincerely hope you the best in whatever follows next. Best wishes and good luck. Final 10-7 time, 13:59 hours.
I'm a little taller than him.
Is your dad?
I'm not 5. I made it to 5'9". I wish they would have got the dog out. The best part about him is his partner. And man, like I grew up as a child. My dad's been a canine cop also my whole life. So from about age 12 up, I was in a bite suit twice, 1 to 2 times a week, 3 times a month, every week of my childhood. So like the things that I heard on a daily basis, that was probably 90% bragging BS. But what it did was it formed an opinion because I knew I was the public. I knew even as a kid that I wasn't a cop, that these guys were the cops. And they're talking about the public. And the more that I realized it, the more it terrified me. And I got a lot of really funny stories about my dad and the guy that's his boss, the Sheriff Devereaux. That video for another time that I promise you.
So I was wondering when I first saw that if your dad was really short or if that other cop was really tall because he seemed huge.
Now that other cop is about 6'6". He is a big dude. That's I think he ate all the corn or something. I don't know, but that's a corn-fed boy. Yeah, they fed it all to him. But yeah, he's 6'6", 6'7", my 5'5". So yeah, he's short.
Hey, I'm right there. I'm like I'm 5'4", bro. So I'm right there, a little bit shorter than your pops.
I graduated at 5'5", never thought I'd be taller, and then I hit a growth spurt from 18 to 19 and got to 5'9". Luckiest day of my life so far.
So I want to show a clip of a video, and I'm not going to show the whole video. I'm just going to show a clip. But what was crazy was you had told me a little bit about your parents and everything, and you being from Oklahoma, and none of that clicked. A video was sent to me, and they told me to review it and check it out. They're like, wow, have you ever seen this one? Why did you never cover this? And I was like, wow, dude, I'm going to go ahead and make a video on it. So I edit the video, I upload it, and then I start reading your comments in that video. and I was totally blown away. Something that you said was your mom was working dispatch the
Oh
day
yeah,
the day that call was
yeah,
made.
yeah. I was listening to the scanner. I've always my mom wanted to be a cop in the '80s, and then she almost shot some kids when she was washing her car at the job corps, so she became to be a dispatcher. I can get into that story. It's funnier and shit too. She became dispatcher. She went to Edmond in like the late '90s, and she just retired from there in June of last year. She's director of communications for Edmond. And so I've always had a scanner because I'd set it on the county that if they called out K9 for my dad, because they always call K9 out for the scary stuff. So, or in our instances, a dude holding the camera. One of the two, it's either someone, robbed someone and ran on foot, or there's a guy holding a camera at a traffic stop. It's one of those two things.
How many
But
calls have you heard up to that point of people with cameras?
now it's hard to know if it's on cameras on the scanner when they're calling out. I don't hear it where I'm at now because in the city, but when I was living in Edmond, I constantly heard a lot of people, especially Tim. That's how I learned of Tim, is because I'd hear him talk on scanner. I'd go on YouTube, look for his videos. But when that day on that
Which
video,
one's Tim? Swamp Fox News, or
I thought he was that. I thought Tim was the guy who was in the video of
Oklahoma Taxpayers Unite. I think he used to
Yeah.
be called OKC Vet or something like that.
I'm not sure. Like
I
News
think the
Now.
channel
OKC
the channel
or
name
something?
is the channel's name was changed. But
Okay. Yeah. I thought, I don't know if his name's correct. I've never met him. I just thought I'd heard his name said in videos before. But I went on and found that video, and like I remember turning it on as they were approaching him with like pistols drawn on him. I'm like, hey man, like dude's basically walking his dog. It's on his back. The gun's only deadly with a finger on the trigger. I ain't never met a deadly gun on someone's back. Never met a deadly gun on someone's hip. I've concealed a gun for 17 years. I had never been deadly once because I've never pulled it on somebody.
nice.
It's that's so to approach that man. They started off, but the calls, you could tell there was 911 calls coming in left and right I mean they probably received 100 911 calls from people around that park, and they shut down a square mile. Well, in that square mile of Edmond is like 2 high schools, a college, and so
Yeah.
it was the perfect location that he did it to show people like, hey guys, this is absolutely ridiculous. Like every cop that showed up on that, I bet my pinky had that gun in their car. And most of them probably used the one to shoot that kid later that day that they killed.
So they actually
reason that wasn't.
later that day they shot and killed someone.
If it wasn't that day, it was in the next day, because why that got completely swept under the rug, because those officers messed up a lot. They said a lot of things they shouldn't have said. They now I don't know if any of them did anything that would go so far as like violating the law that would make their qualified immunity go away or cost the city, but they said things that didn't make the department look great. And there was a lot of between their the guy should have done a public records request on all the dispatch, because all the calls and all the text messages between officers, because like hearing the conversations of the panic, you literally would have thought he had a bazooka. You would have thought he fired off already, or he was pointing a gun, walking around with the gun at the ready, but it's slung across his back. It might as well have been a purse.
Damn, let me play a quick clip of this video so people can know what video we're talking about. That one's on my San Joaquin News Network channel, but you can also find this video on Oklahoma Taxpayers United. And
what happens, because if we back,
yeah, I met this dude at the tax convention building. I was getting up to date on my taxes, and this dude and a couple of the News Now guys walked into the Oklahoma Tax Commission and just started busting balls like out of the gate. That's how I recognized his voice. I'm not sure his name, but like I was just sitting there like trying to get up to date on my taxes so I could get my tax return money. And, they come in with cameras and to see those cops. That was great. Like you might have to look for that video But yeah, he was the only one. The other guys he's with were douches, but he cracked me up in that video. Like he was on point, like stayed on, but he gave those officers hell at the tax commission
If you
and
if
just
you
strolled through like he owned the building.
if you ever find that video, send me the link. I want to check it out. And did you come
I
out in
will.
that video?
I was sitting there looking, and they might have panned across me. I was sitting there with a shocked look on my face, like this is how it's supposed to be done. It's so easy for people to be like, you should have done this or you should have said that. Like, oh, you shouldn't ID. Like the emotion that comes through you when confronted by armed people, that like it blows my mind how easy people are quick to judge a guy. Like I hear a lot. There's a lot of times I watch auditors that even I've been like, I would have done this. I'm like, oh yeah, but I also probably would have been pretty intimidated in that situation as a man.
Yeah.
No matter you know, and like to expect that, like that's why like it's so easy for guys to flip out and scream at officers, because like the amount of emotion you're confronted with in that moment is insane. It's like bungee jumping or getting in a car wreck.
And I'll tell you something, bro. That rush never dies because every officer is different. Every officer's level of bad behavior is different. So you got to approach every cop watch a little differently. Every interaction differently. I mean, definitely, you have to be understanding of what your rights are. You have to know what your rights are, because I'm totally different now than when I was when I first started. And I'll be honest, I was really scared, dude. I hated
I
cops.
bet.
Back
I
in,
bet, dude.
yeah, back in the day, I don't know if it
The
was because,
videos when they were coming to your house, like asking for people's name that wasn't there,
yeah,
the amount of emotion I heard in those voices, that's what made me be like, I mean, like you've helped me grow as a man. Like a father's supposed to help someone grow as a man, because I understand those emotions. Because me as a kid, if I snuck out of my house and go sneak out behind the barn and smoke a joint, my dad would push my window shut, lock it, and then hide in a corner and put a gun to my head when I came through the door. So I learned a lesson. I didn't get yelled at or spanked. I literally got to hear a hammer cocked next to my temple, because, and he made the point, I'm a cop. People are out to get me. This may be someone to come to kill the whole family in the middle of the night. You don't like, even though that's the most ridiculous fucking, do your job and that will never happen. Follow, understand the Bill of Rights and don't abuse qualified immunity. That should never happen, ever.
right. Do you think that police officers should live in the communities that they patrol?
Absolutely, dude. That's like, I don't think it gets brought up enough. And see, my dad didn't do, like when my dad first had in a period of 6 years, he had quite a bit of shootings. When he first became a cop. So in my childhood in the 80s and late 70s and 80s, when he came home from Vietnam. And he got he had a run in Kingfisher and Guthrie PD where he shot quite a few people. And then he decided to move to county and work for a county that was not the county we lived in. And he did that until he came back to Logan County. And then he lived in Logan County, was there. But in my life, that was just my same thing. My mother worked for Edmond. She lived in Guthrie. And that always bothered me, because you're getting paid from those cities' dollars. And you don't have an oath of ownership, of citizenship of that place. Like when I walk around my community and I see garbage, I pick it up, because I'm earning ownership and I'm building a name for my community. If I see a cop run a stop sign, it irritates the hell out of me, because I'm like, dude, take some ownership of my community, please. You're the one that took an oath. None of us begged anyone to become a cop. We all appreciate them. We all appreciate the ones that go in and fight. We all understand they're all going to have bad moments, and we all do. But that doesn't mean you get to violate the rights of an American citizen. That's treason, in my opinion. And you just literally attack the very oath you took. And you might as well punch him, you might as well kick him. And the cops have to realize that, from the stories I've heard in my life, you would believe that you would have thought you had to shoot or damn near beat someone to death to get in trouble as a cop. And that was a big thing as a kid. I was like, I want to become a cop, like I get to do anything. And that was one of those things that I realized, like, oh man, that's actually highly, highly abused. And at a very young age, I realized, like, I would probably be the worst cop ever made. And I'm going to do not only myself, save myself from just hating every moment of me. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to educate myself, and I'm going to be funny, and I'm going to love, and I'm going to laugh. What I'm not going to do is tell people what they're doing with their life is wrong. And especially if I don't know the law. I mean, that's just
They act
my
like
father has told me.
they act like counselors, huh? Sometimes.
Yeah.
They have everything. They know it all. They have all their shit together.
Yeah.
They abide by the law. Apparently, like supposedly they put on a badge and a gun. It's like,
Yeah.
it's hero time, folks. Shit.
Man, I have a lot of stories I would love to tell you off camera because I don't want to get anyone in trouble.
Right.
But I have hilarious stories, and they would only reaffirm you why you believe what you believe.
Let me say something really quick. You and I are going to stay on, Jamey, so hang on. Everybody, thank you for tuning in. I'm going to start a new channel called San Joaquin Podcasts, and I'm going to be interviewing people. This is probably going to be the first video on the San Joaquin Podcast. Let me know if you guys want to see more interviews of me and Jamey. I want to definitely hear his stories. I want to hear a lot more of him. So thank you guys for tuning in. If you want to watch the rest of this video, I'm going to upload this to San Joaquin Podcast channel. This video will already be uploaded there. I'm going to go ahead and continue talking to Jamey. So thank you guys for tuning in. I'll see you on the next video. Jamey, let's keep it going, bro. I mean, let's talk some more.
Yes, sir.
I'm
trying to grab my charger so my phone don't die.
Man, bro, it's an honor talking to you, man.
No, man, the honor is mine. The honor is all mine, bro. Like the amount of pleasure I take in having this conversation with you, and man, it's just to have someone that speaks and sees the world the way you've seen it.
You're cutting out, bro.
What they do.
You just cut out for the last 10, 15 seconds.
So it's an honor of mine to speak to you. You know, like, they have someone like, dude, you know, when you speak, you say things that I feel in my heart, and the amount of genuine in you, how you're not just doing it so people hear you. You're not doing it to have a name. You're doing it because you've experienced things that affected your life tremendously, and you want to see change in your community, and somehow you found a voice to bring change throughout the country.
Thank you. But I wouldn't have a voice if it wasn't for people with experiences. That's why, like, for instance, I'm just another dude, bro. But just think about how I feel talking to somebody like you who's I don't know what kind of life I would have lived, bro, if I would have been living under a sheriff, a family of law enforcement. My family was always afraid of law enforcement.
Yeah.
My mom was a good woman, classy woman, always never wore a dress up to her knees. It's always down to the ankles. She always sat up straight. You know, she kept her elbows up, stuff like that.
Never
broke the law, but she was deathly afraid of police.
And man, that's actually it's so common. And like, I've heard you say it on the different videos about how policing has changed, and it's true. You know, growing up, is, you know, cops stopped and played football with us. Now they want to know your name, your birthday, then they'll go through a talk. Well, I mean, there's never been a law in the state that I live in that says a cop can just demand your name unless you're under arrest or driving a car. So to start out any conversation with that, abide by what I want to do, and then we'll have this, when it was usually throw me that football, or you want to take pictures, or I bet I can outrun you in a race, and him racing the kids down the street. It wasn't, and those weren't cops that knew me, and that was like, that's Jim's son, and playing with, those are just cops that saw kids in their community. Now these kids are getting shot. Now these kids are getting beat up. Now these kids are, and I hate to bring this up because it's a sore subject, and but I've had it brought up to me by a former police officer that this times of escalation always happens in policing after war. We have so many soldiers that have came home And a lot of them come home and they want to carry on that oath and they become police officers. Well, you have the Geneva Convention to follow when you're in Iraq, in the streets of Afghanistan, when you're doing that, but you don't have the U.S. Constitution and you don't have the Bill of Rights to follow. So when those guys get home, they're not taught that in their academy. They're only taught reasons to arrest you. They're not taught any reasons not to, like I said earlier. And there's actually, when it comes to the reasons to arrest people, there's a lot less than there is to not. This fact of the matter, even though there's thousands of reasons to arrest people, thousands. I mean, most cities have, more than 2,000 traffic violations a cop can pull you over for at any moment. But how many times have you been pulled over because you drove away after filming somebody? I mean, it's freaking ridiculous. 2,000 reasons he could have pulled you over and not violated your rights. But he wanted to turn cherries and berries on, which automatically means you're detained. Every court in the nation that's deemed automatically means you're detained because you filmed.
On my channel, I like to talk about policies and things that I believe that could possibly change policing in America. What are some of the things, man, that, like, for instance, I know you've been watching and paying attention, but what are some of the things that you see that should be put on the table to be looked at, policy maybe, or just change in general of maybe training, or what is it that you see that could bring change for the better?
I really believe, man, I have a lot in line with thinking of you. Let me tell my dogs to shush. They're trying to kill each other real quick.
This guy's awesome, folks. This guy is awesome, man. What an honor it is to talk to him.
Yeah, I got puppies playing. A lot of line in thinking with you, man. It starts with, first we have to end qualified immunity. That's the fact that ever made sense to any American to back up guilty people is distant. Like, I almost just want to drop F-bombs to say that statement, because how absurd it is that we ever, as an American people, we're like, we're gonna stand up for guilty people. That's never been our way as our country. It's been a country of justice and honor and privilege. It really is. And rights. And when you're wrong in this country, you're wrong. And they might have qualified immunity, but there was hundreds of years policing before it, and there will be hundreds of years of policing after it. I promise that. We will always have police, but we will not always have qualified immunity. And then it starts with unions, man. Like you said, all they did was bring police into a company. They made it a corporation to where they have backers that no citizen in the country has. There's just not. I don't care what job you've been there, unless you have tenure, you don't have anything close to the backing of that. If I go to my work and I cuss out and lie to an employee, my boss will come and fire me on the spot. I don't get to go home paid until it's all figured out 6 or 8 months down the road. It's not how it goes, and it's not how it works. The fact that when I see a police union come out and goes, we can't back this officer because of his guilt, is when I'll believe the police union has done something positive. But it's never happened in the history of a police union. Right. Not on day one, not on day today.
There are a lot of times, and I don't know if this is because of the police union or what, but there are a lot of times where a police officer does get in trouble, even convicted or whatever. Yeah. A lot of times they get to keep their pensions I believe that one of the reasons that they always say is, they don't really say it in public or nothing like that, but one of the reasons they say is he has a wife and child. They need to be taken care of. So,
but man, how many people do you know that have went to jail that judge say, well, man, I'm going to make his job keep paying him because, I know he killed 37 people, but I'm going to make his job keep paying him like he's there every day because he has a wife and kids. No, they give him the death penalty. It's like, but also what protects it is they have backdoor meetings with sheriffs and chiefs of police. Unfortunately, my father, with comes along with the shooting, is being as many shootings as my father's been along with. He's worked for multiple police departments, and you have meetings with sheriffs and with chiefs of police, and they allow you to stay before you go. So if you're a police officer, before you go in front of the city council for them to go and do, as long as they resign before they're found with cause, they just get to shuttle on to the next town over, and none of that. And they found so many ways to subvert justice from themselves. And the only people who get justice are them. The people that when have we gotten justice? If we get robbed, they just throw somebody in jail. We don't get our TV back. We don't get our
right. And we as a people, we're not dumb. We can see that. So the disconnect is there, and it continues to thrive because of this. What seems to me is like a lawless society.
Yeah. But why do officers not want to? They're so quick to immediately, within seconds of coming up to, auditors all over this country. It's not just happening in Cali. It's not just happening in Oklahoma. It's happening in every state in this country. I mean, I can type in audit in the name and the first three initials of any state, and thousands of hours of videos are going to pop up. And that, I mean, they're so quick to confront people with criminal actions because they only know how to arrest. Right. It's such a mindset that we've allowed them to become in because they don't know how to not arrest you. They don't know how to.
Do you think there should be something implemented where if a cop violates three people's rights and he's found to have done so, automatically lose your job forever?
I think one time. You took an oath not to violate rights. If I walk in and slap my boss,
but could an officer make a mistake on accident? I mean, and this is me being. I actually believe they. I'm a police accountability guy, right? But I'm trying to give a little, take what I believe, give back to the people, but also give a little bit so they can have some leeway to do their job, right? I mean, I'm trying.
And that's what's so awesome about you is that you are willing to look at it from both perspectives. And you're right. I do believe police should be able to make you should be able to make 1,000 mistakes. A mistake is not violating somebody's rights. That's a criminal action. To make mistakes all you want. I make mistakes at work every day. I managed a dispenser. Many times I've weighed a gram out at 107 because it was a cute girl or it was a cool dude that was cool as shit to me. I mess up every day. Like I make a joke about my wife's booty. She might not like it. That's a mistake. But if I go out and punch my neighbor in the face, I committed a crime. I didn't make a mistake. So it's all about, make those mistakes. Come out and say things, but when you're giving lawful orders, be right about it. It's one thing to come out and shoot the shit and make jokes. It's another thing to go out and, have card games with your officers and say stupid stuff like I've heard my entire life. I don't hold any of it against any of those officers, not a bit of it. I call them sir when I run into them. Most of them know me by name, and I've had pleasant conversations with most of them throughout my entire life. But that doesn't give you the right to make a mistake into a crime because ignorance has never been an excuse for anyone. I mean, it's not for the law. It's not for anything. I can't go say I didn't know I didn't own my neighbor's car. Take it.
The 1,000-year-old question, and it's been it's been lingering for many years. But the 1,000-year-old question: should the police be able to break the law to catch a criminal?
Now, I mean, so we have qualified immunity that a lot of people, they hear qualified immunity because most people don't know what it is. And I mean, and when I say most people, I mean fucking everybody. When they don't get it, they think do a U-turn and pull somebody over, without a crime, or fly through an intersection. They don't think bust your window out and drag you and kick you under your car. They don't. They think so. People's minds, for the most part, work simply. So they think of the simplest. They think of the simplest form. And hell, that's if officers actually could actually thought and expanded their mind, half of your interaction would only lasted 15 seconds. If they actually thought instead of running off emotion and ego, which has never led anyone to success in the history of emotions and ego. Unless you're Conor McGregor, I guess.
Do you think cops shouldn't be able to be police until they hit a certain age so that they can have life experiences, whether it's in law enforcement or just life?
28 years old, in my opinion.
I was thinking 27. And
I say that with zero forethought. I haven't thought into it. that, see, like as soon as you said that, a number that sounds logical off my mind, and I base off that as how I thought as a man about that age. I was a terrible everything until I was about 28, 30. I was a terrible son, a terrible boyfriend. It wasn't, I was bad. I wouldn't say terrible. You know, I didn't do evil or bad things. I was just shitty at it. You know,
So
just,
basically, what I've gotten from you is your father really didn't let you get away with, hey, I'm a cop's son. I could do whatever the hell I want. Your father kind of gave you
but he
that.
did.
I'll take
But
your
he
ass to
did.
jail. But he did do that? Or
Oh,
what?
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I was, so like, it was funny, you know, when I was a freshman in high school, I played multiple sports for Guthrie, and we had rivals with small towns around us, and you know, people would show up to fight in your front yard, and they see an Oklahoma County cop car sitting in your front yard, and they go from tough guys who are quiet, and then when your dad comes out and go, you either fight my son or you fight me, and then they go, oh, you know, when 5 or 6 occasions, I got the dude by my dad standing in uniform on the front porch watching me, because it was like, if I don't fight this guy, I got to fight that guy, and I don't want to do that. But I mean, but he did let me. The things I got away with were brutal. You know, if I knew how to talk to cops because I had to come home and lie to one every night. You know, I had to come home and I had to fluff everything I did to not get my ass whooped every night. I was generally not a great kid. I've always been ballsy and not afraid. I'm a lot like my father. I come to terms with stuff, move on, and accept the consequences pretty fast. I don't run from my mistakes. I learn from them. But coming home, so I was never really worried about other cops, because I was like, my dad trained you, dude. If I can get away with it with my dad, I can definitely get past the dumb kid he trained. Or Guthrie cops were fat, so I just outran them. It really wasn't that big a deal. We just bounced on them.
So you think you would ever do an audit or a cop watch?
Yes, sir. It's I've done like during the protest. I did a lot of filming after the during George Floyd protest in downtown Oklahoma City. I did a lot, and I saw a lot of atrocious things that actually reaffirmed and changed how I truly thought. Because I was always those people that are like, oh, there's a few bad cops, you know, like, and those ones that are bad are the worst. But for the most part, we're a nation of heroes, because that's what we were taught, you know? Right. And then when you go out and you see a group of 12 men run up, fuck up a group of protesters, leave them laying bloody in the street, and leave with not taking one person to jail, not doing anything but making victims. And I don't know, you know, I didn't write the code of conduct for police, but I'm almost positive none that says you're allowed to beat the hell out of somebody and not arrest them. You know,
politics.
I'm just, you know, I'm just shooting from the hip there, but I'm pretty sure they're supposed to be arresting you to touch you like that, right, to kick you in the head. Pretty sure you're supposed to be under arrest. I just, you know.
Politics. Do you understand it? Do you hate it? Do you love politics? How do you feel about this shit that's going on?
Here's the hardest part for me to love politics, because I love America. See what it's doing to America makes me sick to my stomach every day. The way I've seen people who used to sit at a table and chat as best friends, and now they can't even chat on Facebook because of the person they vote for, is ridiculous. I've understand that the only effect the politicians ever really had on my life is it sent my family members to war to die. And unless we're in a war, they've really had no effect on my life whatsoever, other than making little rules. I've had to follow some rules that somebody else made my entire life. So other than politicians, just it's hard to believe any of them. I'm about 20% Republican, 20% Democrat, 80% don't give a shit about either one of them. Right. And the values that fall inside with the Constitution, I love. Anything now, I'm like, yeah, have you picked up the Constitution? Were you in Scotland when you read this? Because you weren't in America. You weren't thinking about American politics. And I mean, just with everything that's happened with this Capitol, you know, I'm from Oklahoma. Oklahoma's a very Republican state. Most of my family are, I'd say at least 90%. I think Logan County was 100% red in the vote. I don't know if there was a Democrat vote. If it was very little. But it was like entirely red. I don't know like what numbers they base that off of, like how many percentage, but entire county was red. And like, I just, like, I can't pledge allegiance to anyone that tries to put me against another group of Americans. You know, like, I'm even here to back up a good cop. I'll back a good cop to the death, man. I'll stand there as an American and do what we're supposed to do. And that's back our countrymen. I mean, you're as Junior, man, you know, like what he sacrificed for me to be the asshole I am. You know, just, you know, for what he had to go through. The Marines is one of the hardest boot camps that anyone could ever sacrifice. They make fun of Army guys of what the talks like the sacrifice he made. How dare me not honor that and follow the law and the Constitution?
Man, I feel like when it comes to politics, I felt like a ping pong ball up until I started my channel. I feel like
that's a good way to describe
that.
I
felt like I've leaned towards the left, I've leaned towards the right, and bam, bam, boom, bing, and I'm just like back and forth, man. And once I finally found auditing, I said, oh shit, no more going left, no more going right. It's time to move forward. And
I like that. I haven't thought about that.
You know, I see
that's actually a really, really good way to put that. And it does describe me, because I try not. I feel so ridiculous. Like how strongly people feel from both sides, especially right now in the last week. You know, it was crazy. You know, I'm seeing friends on Facebook in Washington, D.C. that I didn't even know they could vote. I was like, damn, I didn't even know you could register. I didn't know you could read, let alone vote. And you know, they're to see people from my hometown. They traveled to Washington but I was watching videos that so many group of people, they actually believed that he was going to announce charges against government officials. Like, there's such conspiracy wrapped up in that belief, and that's what makes it dangerous, and that's what makes it hard for me to connect to, because you'll never get me to attack. I'll show you how people are treating Americans badly, but you'll never get me to treat an American badly. Try to take my life, try to enter my home, and you'll get what's coming. But other than that, I'm here to make you laugh, I'm here to make it a learning experience.
Right, no shit. You know what's crazy about what you just said is I have a motto for my home. Me and my wife have been together for 18 years. And
17 years for me and my wife.
Nice, bro. Right there with you. So I feel like why fight when you can get along? That's
Absolutely.
Always been. It's simple. It's that simple, and it works.
Yeah.
Why fight when you can get
my
along?
wife helps me a lot. My wife's a psychologist. She's 100 times smarter than me, and she's everything I will never be. And I'm everything she'll never be. An asshole, rude, loud, but
Bro,
uneducated.
Because of your memes, I thought you were single.
No. And I just have a super understanding wife that knows me. She knows me better, and she knows that my goal is to say the funniest thing possible. And what's hilarious is I don't ever pretend not to be me. So her mom loves me. I'm friends with her mom on Instagram and Facebook, with her dad. They follow because they know their son-in-law. Well, they know that I'm here for a joke, a good time, and if everything gets real, I'm here to win.
This is who I thought, before talking to you today, this is who I thought you were, okay? And I apologize. I thought you were the son of a cop who grew up cocky, who felt like you can get away with anything. I felt like you had girls coming over every day and you were kicking them out when you got tired of them. A different girl every day, right? You live a good life, you smoke weed, you do all this shit. And this is the guy that I'm picturing before. I'm like, this guy's living the life of a rock star, bro. I mean, come on.
I mean, I get it. This is a lot of handsome to drink in, bro. It's a lot of handsome to drink in. And I do try to slay pussy like Christ commanded. I won't lie. I try to be a good Christian, but unfortunately, it's just my wife's vagina that I destroy. And I might not even hit bottom of that, but I tear up a few walls.
This is awesome, bro. Hilarious shit.
My wife knows that I'm here for the joke, and she would hate for me not to use my wit. And she goes to bed. She's like, "You're sitting here bored. Make memes. Do something." She's like, if you're doing something that you're enjoying the time, and they make her laugh. She gets And it's rare to have a funny wife because women aren't funny, in my opinion. I'm joking. Take all that back, women. But my wife takes a great joke and she makes me laugh. And she actually gives me ideas for memes constantly.
Nice.
And for a woman that's as professional as her, you wouldn't think I was married to an extremely professional wife, but my wife has master's degrees.
Same here, man. I was outside this morning with my wife getting some sun, and she turns on the sprinklers, and she's sitting there drinking her coffee, and she has her legs crossed over. She's sitting there like this, and drinking her coffee, and I'm just sitting back looking at her. I'm like, that's my wife right there, man. Like she looks like a nice lady and shit, man. She's like a nice lady right there. Like, man, how you doing, nice lady?
We're blessed, man. But it shows, that hard work, that, and imagine how far the men we wouldn't be without them, just, how easy it is to be you because of your wife,
right?
Allowing you, so many people have partners that don't allow them to express themselves. And that's awesome. Because like you said, with my memes, you would never think like I live such a professional life, clean cut. I follow the rules, but I believe in the First Amendment. And as I love stand-up comedy. When I was in college, that was my dream. I did open mics. I did that. So I believe that, if you're saying something out of hate, you're probably wrong. Say something out of humor or say something out of love, right, and you'll probably have a good life, and so I try to be funny. And I know sometimes they're probably pretty overboard. I know I get pretty bad, but it's funny to me. I know that.
And comedians pushed freedom of speech farthest.
More of them should. Don't even realize how much of ambassadors for the First Amendment they are, and if more of them leaned on it, cancel culture wouldn't be slamming them right now. So many comedians are getting canceled for things they've said, and some of them, a bad joke's a bad joke, but man, if as long as it was an attempted joke, it was an attempted joke. You can't be Kramer, you can't go Kramer on the comedy club but as far as your preferencing as a joke, like the limit should be don't cause harm to anybody. And, it applies to the First Amendment, but if we wouldn't have such cancel culture on talking, and I don't know how anyone can be mad at a comedian when we allow our cops to say the stupidest shit in the world every day.
No shit.
Yeah. Where's cancel culture on the cops who, dude, you know how many times, like the other day I was watching a video and I was like 7 minutes into it and I was like, this cop, the only thing he's proved is he's retarded is because he hasn't said one thing that makes sense or a law. He hasn't said anything. He's just accused the guy of crimes that aren't prevalent to the situation whatsoever. They accuse people of burglary and suspicion. I'm like, dude, he's holding a camera. That's 100% of the facts of the situation, like in the way that they do is like, well, where's cancel culture on that stupid? Why cancel the stupid things I say? I'm not hurting people. I'm not taking people to jail with my words.
Have you seen the channel Jersey Watcher?
I feel like I have. That sounds familiar. I'm gonna when we get off here, I'll check him out. Make sure I'm following him.
This guy, for some reason, man, I started liking his work when I first seen it, Kay, and I knew something that he was doing something that nobody else really knew. This guy would wear his Trump hat to BLM protests. When he wanted to go to Washington, he wanted to go to Washington wearing his BLM shit.
Oh my god!
So this guy, basically, what he
I want to have a beer with this dude.
Exactly, this guy loves pushing the limits.
Yeah, but that's such an American value to have. I mean, if we wouldn't have pushed the limits, we'd still be English.
Do you think you think we should be offended daily just to so that we could be reminded every day that the other person has freedom of speech too?
That's a good point. I do. So are you saying, do you think more of us should show like offense to the things that officers are saying? I
just think in general as a people, like
that we should be more. You got to be careful with the word outrage. When you watch what's happened in the last week, but we should be.
Right.
And the outrage doesn't mean you have to burn your city. You know, outrage
Right.
doesn't mean outrage means that you communicate it with your townspeople, with your city council, with your audience on Facebook, on YouTube. If you're driving down the road and you see a cop, you film it, because that might be the best cop interaction you could ever put on the internet, and that might be what brings us to have faith in law enforcement again. That's why it's important to film every interaction, because we need some good ones, because there's about 5 minutes of that and about 100,000 hours of lies online. And so I when every once in a while, when there's one posted and you're like, man, that officer did an amazing job, like, dude, that makes my day, and it makes me want to high five a cop. You know, it makes me like, dude,
I get a lot of shit
like that doesn't just show on that officer in that city. It actually shows on officers all over the country. And that's one thing they need to get. They're, when they're looking at me, they're talking to 10 people. When they're talking to you, they're talking to hundreds of thousands of people. And they better talk to you like they're speaking to hundreds of thousands of people, because we're going to take offense to it if they don't. And if the comments and the likes and the complaints and all that if they can't learn from that, then they can't be taught, because the lesson's very clear. We got it on the projector, pointing it out with the laser pointer. The project just clear. You're going to show dishonor. We're going to show it to the country.
One of the things you guys don't see about what I do when I'm recording cops is, you guys don't see this, but I don't like to look at cops in their faces, bro. When I'm talking to cops, I'm doing this, like, I'm looking at them through my phone. And then I laugh at them.
What is that a psychological thing?
Yes.
Or is it just a personal preference?
You're doing two things when you do that. First and foremost, you don't get the accidental crotch cam when you're fucking talking to them, right? That's happened to the best of us, bro. Like, we're sitting there talking to them.
I do that on purpose.
This damn crotch. Yeah. And so
I do that shit. That's for me later, bro.
So you don't get the crotch cam. Secondly, you're letting them know they're not just talking to you, bro. You know what I mean? Like,
I actually really, really like that. And I had and it should be done, because as in a psychological effect that has, it's either going to keep you honest, or it's going to, your body language, you're going to see it in their eyes, their cheeks, their shoulders, their hips. You're going to see how uncomfortable it makes them immediately, because they're so used to being addressed as, I think I heard this from you, and it might have been a while ago, but it was one of the greatest things I said is, the news alone is to blame for half of the ego officers have for the last 60 years of calling them the authorities on the news. And they only call them that because the cops give them the information and they want it to sound credible. Mm-hmm. And that's it. If they weren't getting the information from the police, they wouldn't need. So they say the authority, who their authority over a criminal in that moment. So that one person that they are arresting at that one moment, that's who they were the authority of, because they aren't. And so, I mean, just little psychological words like authorities for the last 50 years on the news has made people believe that we have to, if they say something, it's right, or if they say it, it's law. And as you've learned, about 98% of it's bullshit. Right. Oh, how much law do you hear in the average conversation with a cop? Not a whole lot of law.
Yeah, man.
It's mostly patronizing. It's mostly threats of fear. You said something that stuck with me like about a month or so ago. You said, officer safety is cowardice, public safety is heroism. Yeah, and that's a very true statement. Do you know? Like, such a true statement.
And it's funny because one time I was walking a cop down, and I was like, "Let me walk you across the street for officer safety," and he was like, "Yeah," and I was like,
"You should have took your pocket out."
Yeah, I should fucking record myself sometimes, because I make gestures at home, bro, that make people laugh just because I mess with them, like you know what I mean? And like when I was telling the cop, I was like, "I'm gonna walk you across the street."
You crack me up all the time.
And he's like, he turns around, he's like, "Yeah," and I'm like, officer safety's cowardice, right? And then I was like,
but dude, that's the truest statement. Where other than a warning like during Cleat and where they were in their academy. The only time officer safety was probably brought up is in a time to be like a situational awareness. It wasn't brought up as a duty. It wasn't brought up as the law. And hell, either was the law, or most of them would know some of it. But it literally, most of their training, from having conversations with my dad. And you know how many times I've said law library, and that's been answered back to me in the form of a question, like, what the law library? Like, law library, you know, like, what the hell is that? I went to target practice, son, and I learned how to kill paper for 6 hours. As law library, what the hell are you talking about? I'm make you leak enforcement. I'm not law enforcement. And that, if they took a little bit of, you know, duty in the full title and honor in that full title, the first word of it's law. You know, the very first word of it.
We have 17 minutes left until this free trial turns off, and then I'll have to upgrade. I'm gonna go ahead and purchase it because I like this new thing. Do you like this?
Dude, you got to do this more. I love the video
on,
you did the other day.
It's on.
And not only that, like, I have so many stories I'd like to talk to you on the phone that we can maybe bring to video, because that are just like what I've seen and experienced in my life, in the life of being born into law enforcement. Not only that, my older brother is a cop. Like I said, my sister's a dispatcher. My Uncle Jeff, he just passed away in June. He retired from Tulsa Police Department this last summer. I mean, it's the Edmond Police still, there's 4 Dave's members at Edmond Police Department where this video that we were going to show happened. Where that happened, that at that police department. I mean, I had a Dave's was a chief of Edmond for 20 years.
And you still have a good relationship with pretty much all your family?
Absolutely. Me and my she don't like, I look and I'm named after my father. So since her and my father divorced, she's always had kind of a up and down relationship with me. I look just like him. It's just one of those that we talk, we have a good relationship. But as far as like time spent, I spend a lot of time. My stepmother, pretty much, she raised me most of my adult life. I'm really, really close to my stepmother and my father. I hung out with my dad for 2 hours yesterday. He had went to Tulsa and he'd found old shotgun of my grandfather's, and he wanted to give it to me because he remembered my grandpa teaching me to shoot with it when I was a kid. And really? So I mean, I swing by when he retired. They let us there too. So when he was on the radio and he said, me and Darko's his Eastern European Shepherd, and they let him retire, so he got to keep the dog. You know, about $100,000 worth of tax money
for $1.
Well, all the training, just buying that dog when it was, you know, before a year old, before they trained that dog to become a cop, they're already almost $100K into that dog.
Yeah, but
and then that dog dog has to meet hours or certificates, training a year. That's all paid for by tax dollars. When
the dog retires, the dog handler can purchase the dog for $1.
Yeah, I don't know if that's in every state. In Oklahoma, they just give it to you.
Oh, really? Okay.
My dad's got, when he retired, he's had multiple dogs over 38 years as K9 officer retire. And every dog that's about 9 years old, they retire the dog. 10 years old. Generally riding around in the car, they get hit dysphasia is so bad from getting thrown around that back cage of the car. And until about 2010 or 11, they learned to put, you know, like seat size dog boxes in there instead of the whole back seat. So the dog's just not getting slammed from side to side every pursuit and front to back. So dogs are doing a lot better, but a lot of canines have SUVs, and just the dog jumping in and out of the SUV, you know, 15, 20 times a day can cause hip dysplasia really bad. And especially when you're dealing with shepherds who are, you know, bigger dogs, longer legs, taller dogs. So when they got a brace in that car getting thrown around, they cost a lot of money, and they only get about, you know, between 6 and 8 years of service for the most part.
Damn, I never even thought about that. I would have never even known that.
The average cop dog cost the department in his career probably close to $250,000.
Damn, that's crazy.
Between all the training, from different departments come, because they all have to do, K9 officers from every department, they have to do so many hours of training a month to keep their dogs certified. So you have to do so many hours in scent training. You have to do so many hours in bite sleep training, so many hours in search and rescue. And so, you know, my childhood spent either running around the woods trying to hide from cop dogs or in a bike suit getting attacked by him. That was just that. When all my friends were going to spend the night with their buddies, I was going from midnight to 7 a.m. to get attacked by police dogs. And that was just that. It's hard to be scared of a lot of men when you had to come. At 12, you're getting attacked by German Shepherds. It felt like Selma, Alabama in the 60s.
Weed in Oklahoma's legal?
Yep, we have medical cards here in Oklahoma.
Right, okay, nice. How long has that been going?
A little over 2 years now.
Nice.
The dispensary I've been working at, we just celebrated 2 years, and we were one of the first in the city that opened up after the law went through. So it's just been a little over 2 years now.
So your father's retired. How long has your father been retired?
He retired, I want to say, September.
Is that the video that went viral, bro? Because I did see a video of an officer or a deputy who got his last radio call, and it went viral.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It might have been that. Like, it was on the news. It was on all the local news stations here. And that, I mean, he's pretty well known in Oklahoma through 45 years of law enforcement. He's unfortunately, he's shot 11 people as an officer in the state. So, you know, he's revered in crowds of police officers. Very rarely can I talk to a cop that doesn't know him, because that's who they all want to be.
Will you ever try to get your dad to smoke a joint with you?
Absolutely. And I will.
You think he will?
So, I mean, if I gotta blow it through a pin in his nose while he's asleep, if I gotta treat him like I did my little brother in junior high, you know, I will. With him being retired, I will. He's never have. I've talked. We talk about it all the time. He's pretty open about it, and he never tried it. Just never had the urge. He got drafted into the military right out of high school in Vietnam, and he came straight home from Vietnam, became a cop. So he's just like, I arrested people for doing it. Couldn't do it. He just never had the urge. But like, we all took like a family trip to the Illinois River to go float the river, and I kept hitting my wax pen and blowing it out the back of his head. He kept knocking me off the raft and into the water every time I blow it at him. But I got a pretty fucked up sense of humor, so I mess with him constantly. So at his retirement party, we got a lot of land out. My family has some land out in Logan County where he's a sheriff, and they had like a big retirement party out there during this bullshit. I know, but I was the only one out of like 150 people with a mask on out there. But I had this retirement party, and Dad was sitting there, and as people started slowing down, and it was hilarious. There's like 50 cops there, and we're drinking moonshine, illegal moonshine. I'm like, I go to a party with all my shithead friends, no illegal moonshine. I go to a retirement party for cop, and moonshine everywhere.
Well, they're part of the mob. I mean, come on.
I've been partying with the wrong damn people. Where'd y'all confiscate this shit from? I was like, I need that guy's number. But we're sitting there drinking moonshine, dude. I just busted out my tray and rolled up a blunt, sitting in the lawn chair next to my dad, and lit the blunt. And while we were having the conversation, I'm sitting around, my brothers like looked at me amazed, because I'm there with one brother, it's a cop, and Dad just and I was just sitting there. I was like, oh yeah, I was like, yeah, it's about that time, guys. Sorry. Like, it's like I moved my chair where they weren't downwind from me. And I just sat there. So I'd like to see. It took him a couple of minutes to come to terms with it, because the last time he caught me smoking, he knocked me unconscious. When he caught me smoking when I was 16. I was out in my garage working on my car. We had a barn, and I was out working in the car, and I was like fucking with my radio and hooking up some shitty speakers or something. And I started smoking a joint, and I guess a girl had called the house phone inside, and my dad came out to hand me the phone. He opened the door, and I was smoking that joint, and he like walked up my car, and he's like chewing me out. Well, I'm watching the joint still burning, and so I'm like, I'm gonna hit it. He ain't really like, he's just getting on to me, but he ain't like said don't do it. So I went to hit it, and he KO'd me. I woke up laid over my passenger seat, and he was inside. I didn't even know what the hell this. So that was one of the first times I had, like, other than like pot being legal, that I smoked directly in front of my. But I was a terrible son. How many times he had to go find plants? where I had plants growing around his land and around his property. He'd go to go fishing and find a little group of plants his 15-year-old son had growing out around his pond.
Come to find out that you're a good son after all, man.
What's crazy is, like when I was in my late teens, I would have thought I'd never had a relationship with my dad because I didn't go into the military and I didn't become an officer. And it's still different than the kids I did. There's still a respect there that they get held to a standard of whatever they do is better and more righteous than I do because of their career paths they've chosen. And I came to understand that, and I don't hold it against him. I just get it as part of his thinking. But as he's gotten older, he loves the fact that I can just have open conversation. That I don't care. I'll talk about a party. I'll talk about stealing his car and going to get laid 2 blocks over in high school. Waiting for him to go to work so I could go look and see if I could find anything and just go snoop around his copper. I love telling stories that most people be so afraid to tell their parents because I'm a 37-year-old adult. He can't ground me anymore, and I can fight a lot better than I could when I was 16. So good luck. But it's just, it blows my mind, and he loves that because he's like, I could have never done that with my dad, his dad who was a cop, and his dad's dad who was a cop, and that he could have never done that. And he was like, just to see the freedom that I have in being myself that he could never have, because he did understand that he doesn't have rights as a police officer. He was one of the few officers that understand that he didn't have First Amendment right. He has his honors and duty, and that is one thing. He didn't understand the Bill of Rights. I still don't believe he read it one time in his 45 years as a police officer. But he saw a cartoon of a bill dancing around on the steps of the White House. That's about as far as the Bill of Rights as he's made it.
I was talking to a retired cop. No, not a retired cop. She's still in the force. But I asked her, can you make a YouTube channel and start talking about your situation and what you've done, whistleblowing, yada, yada. And she says no, because there's stipulations and things that I can and can't do. And right now,
if she's current, now she's probably using a little cop out. She's probably using that to. It's a scary thing to do, to get out there and put yourself out. Right. Even I don't get very nervous and stuff. I was so nervous to talk to you, homie, like that. I was so excited and nervous at the same time. And I couldn't get out there and doing it.
I could tell when you said, let me finish this cigarette, let's get it. And I'm like, oh, he's got to kill the nerves real quick.
Yeah.
Hey, bro.
Man, you get so many hours. And their departments is she's currently still disparaging against her department. But you would think officers on duty would take that shit to heart, right? Mm-hmm. Right? I mean, how come officers on duty are walking up to you and accusing people of criminal activities or harassment or disorderly conduct? How come they're not taking that? Because it's the same thing. They're not supposed to disparage or do anything that affect their department in a negative light. Like in Oklahoma, if you're in Oklahoma, I don't know all police departments, but my dad and my brother in Oklahoma County, they can't go to a bar in Oklahoma County. In that entire county, they can't go to a bar because they might run into, how are they supposed to arrest someone for DUI and then get seen by that guy at a bar, right, drinking alcohol? It's on
their stipulations that they can't do that?
Yeah. They can't. So there are police departments that do that. Officers don't follow their code of conduct whatsoever, so why wouldn't they do that?
Where I was going with that, where I was going with that, or what I mentioned is what I told her is this. So do you believe now that signing that contract to be a cop, you took away some of your freedoms that we have in America? Because if you can't make a social media and profit off of it, then being a police officer is hindering your freedom to do more, because
you're right to be an American.
If you ain't getting this for money, hey, I'm quitting, dude. I'm turning in my fucking 2 weeks notice, bro.
Yeah, on the spot.
On
Well,
the
not only
spot.
that, man. If I got to handcuff a dude after watching a cop violate his constitutional rights because I can't disparage my department, where do you? How can one breath can they say officers are there to turn in and do that? You, man, I don't know. I sent you a message. We were talking. My older brother's a deputy. He actually sued his sheriff's department and won.
Oh shit.
And they had to go back and repay every deputy that back pay because Oklahoma County had been only paying a certain amount of overtime, and they were working 12 hours. You know, I don't know 100% of the facts. Me and my brother lived with each other at the time and having conversations with him about it. But him and like 7 or 8 other officers sued the department, and they had to pay even officers who no longer work there, that time back. Cost taxpayers millions. Because it took him 4 years to do some simple math and find out he was losing like $3,500 a month because his police department was screwing him. And you know what they've done? They've like slow played his career every day since. Why my father left Oklahoma County and went back to Logan County pretty much because of that, because of how my brother was being treated. He didn't like how he didn't like how the blue line wasn't supporting one of its own.
And that's what happens, man. You know, you got this brethren, this brotherhood, and all that shit until you fuck up once and cut off.
Not only that, dude, I've been telling my dad's even noticed it since he's retired. He's like, hey, it's the same. He's like, I don't get the same respect from officers that, you know, knew me as Officer Dates. Now they know me as retired. He's like, they don't hold eye contact. He's like, you can notice. He's like, people treat you different. I was like, now you're one of us. It's like for the first time since you're 17 years old, you know what it's like to be a citizen of America, not a servant of America.
We got 1 minute left. This is about to shut down, and I'm going to go ahead and pay for the thing, so next time it will be unlimited. But
brother, you made my day.
Thank you so much for talking to me, bro, and talking to our subscribers, my subscribers, and hopefully you get a channel going so I could start sending people over to you as well.
Yes, sir.
Any last words? You got about 10, 20 seconds.
You made my day, man. You did. You're the GOAT. Greatest of all time.
I'm just another man, bro. Thank you so much. We'll talk. I'll shoot you a call here in a little bit so we can talk a little bit about this.
Yes, sir.
All right, brother. Thank you.
Later, bro.
All right. I hope you guys like this installment of my first San Joaquin podcast. I guess you guys give me an idea of what you think this channel should be called. I'm going to call it San Joaquin Podcasts as of now. I actually like interviewing people. I never really knew that I had this skill. Wow. And I keep improving on something here and there, little by little. Every day I'm trying to get better at something else. So thank you guys for tuning in. Let me know if you guys like this. If you guys want to see more interviews, stuff like this. I want to get to the bottom line of policing in America. We're not educated on the law, on our rights in school. Our parents don't teach us because they weren't taught. We're not learning this in church, of course not. But where do we learn law and our rights? A good place to start is right here. So make sure you guys subscribe. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.